injuries and experiments. Some speculate that he had committed suicide. Others believe that he may have actually been pushed.
Good.
And a great deal of others believe that something very dark and angry that resides on that island made him do it. According to a nurse who had witnessed his fall, the doctor survived the initial impact. Upon hitting the ground, she says that she watched him writhe in pain for moments before he became surrounded by a strange mist.
Huh.
Once the strange mist had surrounded him, she watched as the doctor appeared to be struggling with something as if he was being choked to death. After the mist had dissipated, the doctor was visibly dead.
Oh, that's amazing.
Something on that island knew he was awful too. If that's the story that you choose to believe, which is the one that I kind of hope is true.
Who survives after that is a long fall.
It is a long fall, and he was apparently really badly mangled and super bloodied. There's actually a rumor floating around, though, that that doctor's body is bricked up somewhere within the asylum, that he was buried on site. That can't really be confirmed or denied. The hospital closed and the island was abandoned in 1968, and Poveglia has been abandoned ever since.
Right.
While it is illegal to trespass on the island, it's a law that's really barely enforced, and a lot of visitors find ways to make mosey on out there, make their way out to the island. So I'm not telling anybody to do that. Visitors to Poveglia often feel bombarded by intense feelings of dread and despair.
Oh, from what? From what, all the horror that's happened on the entire island?
I know, right? It's a consistent feeling that many people share. Others report when they get there that they have an uncontrollable urge to turn back and flee the island as soon as their feet touch the ground. Some visitors have also reported hearing the sound of moaning and wailing as if somebody is being tortured. And this sound emanates from multiple different buildings throughout the island, and oftentimes they can't locate where it's coming from.
I had read and heard that it comes from the underneath of the multiple mass graves, and also a lot of the ash that was spread over the island. Is that it's actually emanating from the soil.
I could see that, and that's definitely a part of it too. There have also been inexplicable accounts of the bell and the bell tower tolling, and then once they go to the bell tower and investigate it, there's nobody there. Some visitors have also reported that while exploring the remains of the asylum, an inhuman and unearthly voice audibly screams at them and commands them to leave and never return. I wouldn't be surprised if there were multiple inhuman entities residing there, which are obviously intelligent enough to communicate with you in whatever way they need to.
Right, and also powerful as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that language is too much of a barrier for them.
Right.
I always wonder what the situation is when psychics go into the environment.
I'm a lot of things on that. You can find what you feel like you want to find in these areas, which makes me grumpy. Because I do believe in ghosts, and I believe in a lot of spiritual presences. I just hate it when it starts seeming like people come in there just to take advantage and or make a name for themselves.
I think that some people really have that gift.
Right.
And that kind of insight, I think, is incredible. I constantly wonder what it's like, blessing or curse, to be able to know and feel those things. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to sort out the people that are full of shit from the people that are legitimate and truly gifted. I'm constantly fascinated by what would happen if a medium went into these locations with, I guess, somewhere deep down inside of me, the hope that it's a legitimate medium. I want to know what they see. I want to know what's not tangible to me and to every other person that goes on the island that doesn't have that kind of sense.
Right.
Psychics who visit Poveglia all seem to agree that the island is home to many angry and outwardly malignant entities, who the psychics believe are to this day still suffering even in their death state, which is another one of those things that, once again, makes me very sad.
Right.
There's all these people trapped there that are still suffering.
Right.
That's awful.
That entire island is only dread and despair.
Yeah. These entities seem to have a particular hatred for the visitors who come in and trespass on the island. The entities, according to psychics, are seen as outsiders who are not welcome. Most of the psychics who have been called upon to investigate the island find the potent and malevolent energies that they come in contact with there to be so incredibly unbearable, and the experience to be so traumatic that most of these psychics have flat out refused to ever return to the island again because it was too much for them.
Right.
That being said, the more aggressive and physical encounters that people experience on the island include being pushed or nudged by invisible hands that are apparently so distinct and tangible that people claim that they can feel the fingers and fingernails on them. Ghost Adventures has obviously been there, right? I did not watch this episode for my research. I found my research other places. The Ghost Adventures crew, when they visited the island, they experienced a lot of equipment malfunction. And the readings that they were getting off of their devices that were actually working were nonsensical. They were so off the charts that it was the type of energy that didn't make sense to them because it was not something that they typically saw.
Mm-hmm.
Zach Bagans also claims to have been physically attacked by an unseen entity in part of the episode where they visit. And if you choose to watch that episode, it's on camera and you can actually see it happening to him. One of the really fucked up things, if you ever choose to go to Poveglia, about exploring it is that you are almost never certain whether or not you are walking on top of the remains of Venetians who have been buried in the many plague pits scattered throughout the island.
And or have been cremated.
It's the worst Easter egg hunt you've ever been on. It's not uncommon at all for visitors to the island to discover human remains that have become unearthed naturally over time, or either just by digging or seeing something protruding and wanting to know what it is.
Right.
It is literally an island full of bones. Skulls are also known to return to the island. This is something I find fascinating.
Return.
It's a natural thing. I don't think there's anything paranormal about it, but skulls are known to return to the island because of the current and the tides. They wash up on shore all the time. The concept is that because Poveglia being what it is, that person was probably buried there or brought there when they died, and at some point in time their remains made their way out into the water, and then over time the water carried them back to the island. Okay. Fishermen who generally tend to avoid the island sometimes end up dragging up human bones and skulls in their nets when they're fishing in the surrounding waters. Modern day, the island is mostly untouched and uninhabited, except for a few agricultural endeavors that exist upon the island. What that means is that there are a few vineyards.
Ash is really good for growing a lot of different plants.
Most people who tend the vineyards mostly prefer to never be on the island unless they have to. So what that means is that the only time that they really visit the island is when it comes time for them to harvest the grapes. It is possible for tourists to visit the island legally, but you must possess a permit from the government, which does require a lot of really arduous paperwork. So it's a real big pain in the ass to get a permit, but tourists do get them.
Right.
The problem is that even if you do acquire this permit, you're more than likely going to have difficulties finding somebody who will take you to the island, because a lot of people obtain the permit and then still can't actually procure a way to get to Poveglia. The people who possess boats oftentimes think the island is cursed and don't want to go near it.
Right.
And the people that will bring you to the island offer their services at a very high cost.
Of course.
So if you're thinking about going there, do your paperwork, bring a lot of money. I don't know, maybe bring all of your things, your stones, your herbs, your oils, your sage, I don't know, just bring all because you can never be too safe.
So because I did true crime this week, I'm the one that's going to do the cheers. May all of her children be fast asleep until you have completed your deed.
Oh!
I figured it'd be appropriate.
Okay, great. So let's just cheers to that. As always, we have a Twitter and a Snapchat. Both of them are Shots in the Dark P. Please give us a nice review on iTunes. It helps us so much because it gets other listeners to find us, and we get to grow this community a little bit.
Instagram is Shots in the Dark Podcast, and our email is shotsinthedarkpodcast@gmail.com. We are on Google Play as well.
From both of us here at Shots in the Dark Podcast, we hope we've left you shaken.
Not stirred.
Bye.
Bye.